We don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. I am proud to shut down the government for border security.
Shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute.
There are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall.
What an extraordinary scene in the Oval Office today. The president and Democratic leaders of the House and Senate squared off.
This meeting was supposed to be about the budget, but it quickly became about the border wall.
And Dave Bryan is with us here. And Dave, this is the kind of thing that happens behind closed doors all the time.
All the time,
but
right.
with cameras there, I can't remember seeing that.
Never seen it. I've never seen it. Nothing even close to this.
Yeah.
Like you say, they're arguing all day and all night, but that's behind closed doors. This was supposed to be a closed-door meeting where President Trump and the Democratic leaders could do some wheeling and dealing on important issues like funding the government and sealing the borders from illegal immigrants. But the White House called in the media, and the president and the Democrats put on quite a show for them. It was the kind of bitter disagreement usually reserved for back rooms with all doors closed and no cameras allowed. But today it was carried out in full view of the cameras as President Trump and Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer conducted a no-holds-barred freewheeling argument about funding for the border wall and shutting down the government.
One thing I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on my...
You've said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud.
It was the first meeting between the three leaders in over a year, and it was supposed to be closed to the press. But over the objections of the Democrats, President Trump allowed the cameras to record the drama, and there was plenty of it. Trump and the Democratic leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi, tangled too when the president implied that she was talking tough because she wants to nail down the Democratic votes to become House Speaker.
I also know that, you know, Nancy's in a situation where it's not easy for her to talk right now, but we have to have border security.
Mr. President, please don't characterize the strength that I bring to this meeting as the leader of the House Democrats who just won a big victory.
And we've gained in the Senate. Nancy, we've gained in the Senate. Excuse me, did we win the Senate? We won the Senate.
After the heated meeting, the insults apparently continued. Pelosi briefed House Democrats in a closed-door meeting where she's reported to have said about President Trump's behavior, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. Now, in the meantime, though, real people can be affected by this. The most immediate issue here is funding the government because the deadline is coming up quickly, and without at least a temporary agreement on funding between the president and Congress, some Americans could start to feel the impact of a shutdown very quickly. And remember, the holiday season is now upon us.
So my next guest spoke with the president about all of this for quite some time, a short time ago. He says the president is right to demand more, tweeting, quote, "You are right to want more border security funding, including wall money. They are wrong to say no. Put DACA on the table and make them say no to the wall and DACA. Hashtag dig in." Senator Lindsey Graham joins me now. Senator, good to have you with us this evening.
Thank you.
What did the president say after this rambunctious meeting that we all witnessed in the Oval Office? How did he feel about it?
Well, the first thing he asked me, how did I do? I said, I thought you did great. I thought you made a very compelling case that you need more wall funding to secure the country. Secure borders is not a manhood thing, it's a national security thing. And here's what's so hypocritical. In February of this year, 44 Democrats, including Schumer, voted for a bill that had $25 billion for a wall. In 2013, Schumer helped create a bill that I was part of that had $8 billion for a wall, $42 billion for securing the border in other ways. So they want Trump to lose more than they want the country to win. They voted for large amounts of money to secure the border before. They just don't want to do it for Trump.
So there's a lot of, sides that are having trouble with this idea, with this vote. There's a suggestion that a $5 billion wall funding bill could pass the House in the coming days, and we're going to see what happens with that. Nancy Pelosi wants to be Speaker. She needs 218 votes. She clearly feels like backing any solution in this is going to make that problematic for her, right?
Well, she's got a political problem. The country has a border security problem. Here's what I would tell the president. If they voted for $25 billion in February of this year, insist on $5 billion now. The caravans have created more uncertainty on the border, not less. What signal are we sending to the world if we reduce funding for border security in light of increased threats? We're inviting more caravans. So the president is right. This liberal arrogance has to come to an end. Nancy Pelosi said, I will never put DACA associated with the wall. Well, we did that in February. So this idea that the president needs to back down doesn't make sense to me. He needs to dig in and get the very Democrats who voted for $25 billion to give him $5 because we need the money now more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you talk about compassion and there's all of this concern for the people who are trying to get into this country on the part of Democrats, and then the president offered 1.8 million DACA recipients, which was bigger than the number that they initially wanted, and they turned that deal down.
They want him to lose. They want, okay, so they put an 8-month-old baby under the wall a couple of days ago. You'll never convince me. I've been doing this for a decade. I've done everything I can to find a bipartisan solution to this. You'll never convince me that the president's demand for $5 billion to secure our border, including a wall, is unreasonable. Again, in 2013, Democrats had an $8 billion wall plan. In February of this year, 2018, they all voted for $25 billion for wall and border security. This is all about politics. The president needs to dig in and make them pay a price. They're overpaying their hand. If I were the president, I would put DACA on the table and see if they say no to that. Wall plus DACA would be a good deal for this country.
So show me how you see this playing out. As we head to Christmas and New Year's, there's discussions about all of you folks staying on the Hill through the holidays. And the president said, you know what, I feel so strongly about this issue that I'm willing to shut the government down. We're only talking about 25% of it. Most of the funding is already passed. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think the president and people like me need to make a case to the American people that they're denying this president money that makes sense. The difference between $1.6 billion and $5 billion is what we're talking about. Again, in February, 44 Democrats voted for $25 billion. Right. It's not the money, it's the desire to have Trump fail. And he needs to deal with it now. It's only going to get worse next year. He's in a good spot. Dig in, make the case that this money is necessary, and challenge the Democrats to work with you on DACA plus the wall. And if they say no to that, that means they really do hate Trump more than they care about the country, and that will blow up in their face.
What about the politics on the president's side? Here's the latest Marist poll. 57% say that they would like to see a compromise from the president to prevent gridlock, also known as a shutdown. 36% say don't compromise to prevent it. 8% are not sure. But when you look at the numbers of Republicans that were polled, they want him to do exactly what you said, and that's dig in on the wall. So how does this play politically for the president and his own party, ultimately?
He's asking for $5 billion. His border plan, we had $25 billion on the table that Democrats voted for in February. He's not asking for all the money. He's asking for a fourth of the money to deal with the damage done by the caravan and to secure our border and to stop future caravans from coming. A compromise, to me, is taking less than was on the table before so he can get through this year.
You feel like that's already a compromise?
Yes.
Look into your crystal ball. We'll look towards Christmas, New Year's. Are you guys all still up there working? Does this get resolved? Or does the president throw up his hands and say, you know what, I'm going to turn to a military option again, because he said as much in the Oval Office today?
Well, I'd hate to take money out of our military budget because we need it for other things. Here's what I think. The president's on the right side of this issue. He's got to deal with this obstruction now, this hypocrisy now, this liberal arrogance now.
So you recommend a shutdown if necessary?
I recommend sticking to securing the border that is broken, and the difference between 1.6 and 5 billion is what we're talking about. It's a reasonable request. We need more money for the border, and if you don't see more threats to our border in this year versus last, then you're just not watching the same movie I'm watching. The president needs to make the case. He's being reasonable, and they hate him so much. They want him to lose and the country to lose. I mean, at the end of the day, they'd rather him lose than the country win. Stick with it, Mr. President. You're on the right side of this issue. You will win this case with the American people.
One of Donald Trump's favorite myths about immigrants is that they don't pay taxes and are a drain on government resources. Well, that's baloney. Here are the facts.
Ooh, I like facts. So let's start off with one. In this clip from a November 2015 interview with CNN's Aaron Burnett, then presidential candidate Donald J. Trump was talking about illegal immigrants and taxes.
Look, they're here illegally. They're not paying taxes, okay? I've heard this one before, too. I hear them all.
Donald Trump never said that immigrants don't pay taxes. He was talking about illegal immigrants.
One of Donald Trump's favorite myths about immigrants.
This guy went to Oxford, Dartmouth, and Yale, and is a former US Labor Secretary, but can't differentiate between legal and illegal immigration? But yeah, let's totally listen to what this guy has to say.
Here are the facts.
Number one, foreign-born Americans pay more than $300 billion in federal, state, and local taxes, according to the most recent data.
When Robert Reich says foreign-born Americans, it's unclear as to what he's referring to because he's trying to blur the line between legal and illegal immigration. So let's break it down another way. According to data from the Bureau of the Census and Pew Research, in 2017, the US workforce included 13.4 million naturalized citizens and 8 million lawful permanent residents, i.e. green card holders. So that's a total of 21.4 million foreign-born people working legally in the United States. These two groups contributed around $100 billion in state and local taxes and $200 billion in federal taxes. That's an average of $9,345 in federal taxes and $4,672 in state and local taxes per worker.
Number two, undocumented immigrants pay taxes too. In 2015, undocumented immigrants paid an estimated $24 billion in federal taxes.
Aw, the illegal immigrant is smiling while paying his taxes. And Trump is mad or something. This is unrealistic because no one smiles while paying their taxes. Anyway, there are 8 million undocumented immigrants in the United States workforce. If you divide the amount of federal tax collected by the number of illegal immigrants in the US workforce, that's a whopping $3,000 each. But as it turns out, Reich's statement should be some undocumented immigrants pay taxes. It's estimated that only half of all illegal immigrants in the workforce actually pay federal taxes. So the average per tax-paying undocumented worker is $6,000.
They also pay another $11 billion in property taxes and state and local sales taxes.
Yes, we should let them stay because when they buy things, they pay sales tax, just like real Americans.
Number three, immigrants strengthen Social Security. Undocumented immigrants alone contribute an estimated $15 billion in Social Security taxes every year.
You hear that, everybody? Illegal immigrants pay $15 billion into a system that pays out $1 trillion. But thanks for that 1.5% contribution, you're keeping the system solvent.
Immigrants strengthen Social Security.
By the way, it's actually more like a contribution of $7.5 billion, as employers have to match what workers pay into it.
And remember, most immigrants are young, thereby strengthening Social Security as more Americans born here retire and begin withdrawing from Social Security.
Let's watch that again.
Most immigrants are young.
There he goes again, mixing up legal immigrants with illegal immigrants. But as far as illegal immigrants paying into Social Security, it's because that they are either using a fake or stolen Social Security number. But what Robert Reich is saying is that it's okay that they're breaking the law because of all of the money that they put into it. And this guy's supposed to be an economist.
Number four, more immigration is good for the economy. Spending by immigrants drives economic growth and creates jobs, rather than taking them away. All this boosts tax revenues, which reduces the deficit.
However, immigrants, legal or otherwise, send billions of dollars back to their home country every year. In 2016, migrants sent $138 billion in remittances from the United States to other countries. And at the top of the list was Mexico with $28.1 billion, which is equal to 2.3% of Mexico's gross domestic product.
Number five, historically, new immigrants have contributed more to society in taxes than they've taken from society in terms of public benefits.
Again, that's immigrants, not illegal immigrants. As a whole, illegal immigrants take in more benefits than they pay out in taxes. In a 2010 report by the Heritage Foundation, They noted that the average undocumented immigrant household received about $24,721 in government benefits and services, resulting in a deficit of $14,387 per household. For example, those illegal immigrants use roads, parks, sewers, police, and fire protection, all of which cost money. Plus, children in unlawful immigrant households receive heavily subsidized public education, and US-born children are eligible for the full range of government welfare and medical benefits.
Generations of immigrants to America have strengthened and enriched this country.
Yeah, but illegal immigrants? Not so much.
So the next time you hear anyone claiming that immigration is bad for the economy, know the truth.
Again, he's mixing legal immigration with illegal immigration. He either doesn't know the difference or doesn't want to. I trust learning about economics from Robert Reich about as much as I trust learning about science from this guy.
Migrants staying south of the border are giving President Trump an ultimatum. Let them into the country or pay for their return home. 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo is at the border where migrants marched for hours to the U.S. consulate office in Tijuana.
The migrants say they are giving the president 72 hours to meet their demands, but they don't know yet what they will do if he doesn't meet their request. Waving Honduran flags and banners with messages to President Donald Trump, dozens of migrants marched from the shelter where they've been staying to the U.S. consulate in Tijuana. Mexican federal police met them in riot gear, but the march was peaceful and officers worked with them, escorting 2 people into the consulate office. The migrants took this envelope to an official inside. This is a copy of the letter addressed to President Trump. In the letter, the migrants are asking the president to allow everyone from the caravan into the country, saying they are a peaceful group made up of mostly men, women, and children. The letter goes on to read that if the U.S. doesn't want more migrants, they should stop interfering economically, politically, and with military presence in Central American countries, asking the president to shut down all U.S. military bases in those countries. If the president doesn't comply, they want $50,000 from the government for each migrant to make travel plans for their return home. All of this coming a day after protesters on the U.S. side asked for more humane treatment of these migrants. The protest ending in the arrest of 32 religious leaders. We did reach out to the U.S. consulate office for comment, but so far we haven't heard back. Reporting in San Isidro, Laura Acevedo, 10 News.
Mexican government planning to spend billions to halt the flow of migrants.
They say it's an attempt to convince migrants to stay put instead of migrating. 10 News reporter Mimi Akala is live along the border. Mimi, this news is coming as the U.S. government plans to pull some of those troops out before the holidays.
Yeah, we're told about 2,200 troops at the U.S.-Mexico border will be home by Christmas. A lot of them will start heading back as early as this week, but no word yet on what happens to the remaining 3,000 and when they will end their deployment.
Any violation of federal regulations is an arrestable offense.
My agents are looking north, trying to deal with this protest. They started taking rocks from the south side.
As hundreds of people marched to the border, about 32 mostly religious leaders were arrested. Border Patrol agents warned the demonstrators to step back, but many crossed into a restricted area. They say they're calling on the U.S. government to put an end to militarized communities and allow members of the Central American Caravan to come to the U.S. and seek asylum. The U.S. announced it'll begin sending some troops home as early as this week after their deployment was extended just last month. Now, although the exact details are still unclear, the Mexican government also announcing that it plans to spend $30 billion in the next 5 years on Central American development.
President Trump wants $5 billion for a border wall and border security. It includes electronic surveillance and manpower, border security things. Democrats are only offering $1.3 billion. It's gotten to the point where Democrats claim they want border security. It doesn't seem like they're willing to give anything. Trump says he'll shut down the government. What's going to happen?
Well, I think what President Trump did today was brilliant because it showed the Democrats for what they are, unwilling to negotiate on this, unwilling to give President Trump the votes for anything that he's asked for. To be clear, the $1 billion that they're offering is heavily restricted. We saw this in March. It doesn't allow any new spending to go towards President Trump's border wall prototypes, and it strictly limits where the wall can be built. So that is not the wall. What Democrats are offering right now is not the wall. So I think we're finally seeing a Republican that's willing to go to the mat, and that's President Trump on this issue. Congressional Republicans have been a disappointment on this issue for 2 years. So I think we're finally seeing some muscle out of the Republican Party. I think President Trump is leading on this. I think we're going to go to the mat. I'm not sure we're going to get a shutdown because, again, and President Trump pointed this out, when the Democrats did this exact thing earlier this year, it ended up being the Schumer shutdown. It lasted for 3 days, and Democrats had egg on their face.
Right, and that was over DACA, remember. That was Senator Schumer, and that was over DACA. And 3 days, that's all it lasted before they caved. So here's the thing. I don't think Chuck and Nancy are on the side of the majority of the American people here. The majority of the American people, Democrats and Republicans, want a secured border. We don't want open borders. We don't want a free flow of people and crime, drug traffickers, human traffickers, sex traffickers coming over our border without regulation. That's an American principle. That's not partisan, one party or the other. We have a CBS poll that said 51% of Americans support a border wall, a Harvard-Harris poll that says 54% support both physical and electronic barriers at the border. How could Chuck and Nancy think that they are going to win, or how could they win when the majority of the people are against them?
Well, this is the game they play. They love to demagogue on this issue and then say, Trump's a racist, Trump's all these things, but then they have no actual solutions. And that's why I think this Oval Office meeting was so helpful, because it forced the Democrats into the spotlight to say, hey, they don't have any solutions. In fact, if you look at the meeting, President Trump was the only one who came with actual statistics about how effective walls are and who is crossing our border. Chuck and Nancy had nothing to show for that. They didn't even have anything to combat those with, because they know the answer is, look, we have a border security problem. We have to build this wall. We have to have better enforcement at the border. And they've been able to hide and run from this issue without producing any solutions of how they would keep, drugs and rapists and criminals from crossing the border. They have not been forced to provide solutions. Trump put them on the spot today, and look what you got. You got nothing from them except for hostility.
She promised immigrants she would help them become U.S. citizens, but police say the Round Rock woman is a fake, tricking people into thinking she's a lawyer. What is real, though, is the tens of thousands of dollars she collected doing it. Tony Plohetsky has more on the case that's now drawing attention from the feds.
Conquita, Maria Decay was still seeing clients when we went to her office on Main Street in Round Rock, even after she had been arrested and bailed out of jail. She says she has no plans to close what she called a legitimate business to help undocumented immigrants on a path to citizenship.
In video after video online, Maria Decay is providing advice to immigrants and talking about her desire to help especially those from her native Venezuela. And on social media sites like LinkedIn and Instagram, she calls herself a lawyer. This man fled to the U.S. a year and a half ago with his wife and young son because of Venezuela's political crisis.
It made me decide to come to the United States with a tourism visa in May of 2017 with the purpose of legalizing my status in the United States legally through a political visa.
He learned about Decay and paid her $1,800 to help process his paperwork, seeking political asylum for him and his family.
Because I feel to do things right in this country, you have to abide by all laws that the country has in place.
But police say he unknowingly hired someone to help him, not knowing she legally could not. According to an affidavit, Maria Decay does not have a license to practice law in Texas. In fact, the affidavit says she has failed the state bar exam 3 times, making it illegal for her to call herself an attorney or lawyer or to practice law. The affidavit says Decay also had a forged Texas bar certificate at her office when police searched it last week, and that she told investigators she uses it to, quote, inspire her to achieve her vision of becoming a real attorney. Decay is charged with falsely holding oneself out as a lawyer, a felony for which she faces up to 10 years in prison.
They're trying to play by our rules so that they can stay in our country. They went to her seeking her advice as an attorney.
Round Rock Police Sergeant John Rose says he's interviewed about a dozen of Decay's clients. He said each believed Decay could process their applications and represent them in immigration court hearings. But legally, she can't. He says investigators also found records showing Decay had taken in between $80,000 to $100,000 from clients since October of 2018.
They trusted her. They paid her money and were promised that she would represent them in their immigration or their asylum cases.
How are you?
We went to Decay's office where we found her working and with a new client in the waiting room. She would not go on camera and referred us to her lawyer. He did not return our calls. According to the affidavit, Decay does have an international law degree from the University of Houston, but police say that does not qualify her to practice law.
I still don't have my file.
This client says Decay still has critical documents he needs for his case, including his Venezuelan birth certificate, and that he has been trying to get it back.
I feel like my case is in limbo, still up in the air.
He is now cooperating with police. The man says he has also hired a new lawyer with the hopes of making his dream of legally becoming a U.S. citizen a reality.
Round Rock police say they are still investigating and that Decay could face other charges. The Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency is also getting up to speed on this case and may pursue charges against Decay in federal court. Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
Fireworks at a high-stakes Oval Office meeting. President Trump and top Democrats Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer clashing over border wall funding and avoiding a partial government shutdown in a heated face-off. Watch this.
And then we have the easy one, the wall. That'll be the one that will be the easiest of all. What do you think, Chuck? Maybe not?
It's called funding the government, Mr. President.
The Trump shutdown. You have the
Oh,
White
what?
House,
Did
the
you say
Trump
Trump?
shutdown.
Oh.
You have the White House. You have the Senate. You have the House of Representatives. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need
Well,
border
let's take the
security.
vote,
Nancy,
we'll find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
When you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with
just
our
said
military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said
Without
it's effective.
a wall, the last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened
20
it up very
times.
quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times
Chuck,
you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on
You've
my...
said it.
I'll take it. I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you.
Democrats pouncing on the president, saying he'd be proud to shut down the government over the border wall, but he's refusing to back down.
I don't mind having the issue of border security on my side. If we have to close down the country over border security, I actually like that in terms of an issue. I mean, Chuck's problem is that, you know, when we last closed down, that was his idea. And honestly, he got killed. And so he doesn't want to own it. And I said, you know what, rather than us debating who's owning it, I'll take it. I'll take it. If we close down the country, I will take it.
Switch seats with Mark.
All right. Okay, so Jesse, the meeting was mostly show. No matter what, right? Because it's
that was all substance, Dana.
But interesting. Both sides feel like it could not have gone better for them.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're a Democrat, you say Trump now has taken full responsibility for the Trump shutdown. And if you're Trump, you look at that video and you think, I just manhandled these two people on live television, and they look like complete buffoons. If you just look at the body language there, he was cutting them off. He was holding up pieces of paper. Nancy, Nancy, Nancy. Chuck's sitting there like a weakling. Nancy's getting interrupted the whole time.
I mean,
it was an extraordinary physical performance. Yeah. At the end of the day, though, if you take look, on a debate stage, he did the same thing with Hillary. But these are two weaker people, and he, basically tag-teamed both of them until they look like blithering idiots. At the end of the day, though, he says, I'm shutting this down for border security, and I don't care if I take the heat. This is the last chance he's ever going to have to get the wall funding. It's either do or die. He's not going to get it in the next 2 years, and he may not get it in the next 6. He has to go to the mattress on this. He has to own the issue, and if he doesn't get it, his supporters are going to show up in the general and say, you know what, you had 4 years to build the wall and we didn't bring it together.
That point,
what's that about?
To that point, Greg, there was a NPR Marist poll today.
Oh, I love it when you bring those up.
There was a chart
A chart even?
Yes.
Tell me more about this said
said,
chart. Yes.
When they asked Republicans, should he compromise on the wall funding in order to avoid a shutdown, 65% of the Republicans said do not compromise.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got that on his side, but then, of course, there was other parts of the poll that support the Democrats.
Can you just pull up that picture again of the group discussing this? We're missing the biggest story here, which is Pence, who has been cryogenically frozen.
Pence was there?
Yes, he was actually.
I didn't see him.
They talk about they should have had a body language expert do Pence right now, because there's absolutely no body there. It's just pure animatronic.
He closed his eyes through a lot of it.
But that's exactly what I would do, because I'm going, you know what, staying out of this. This is great.
Not the Pence shutdown.
Yeah, I'm not involved. It's like, and also it's like I don't hang out with women who aren't my wife. I'm not getting involved. I'm staying out of trouble. But you know what the thing is? It encapsulates two things. One, why we hate tribal team sport politics, because believe it or not, there is a solution in front of them. You do this, I'll do that. We'll deal with DACA, you deal with the wall. There's a solution there, but they can't do it because even if they agree with what Trump is doing, they can't do it because it's Trump. They agree in their hearts that border security is important, but they can't admit it because then they would admit Trump. And the challenge here is for Trump is that he's always choosing the long-term benefit that creates short-term public relations nightmares. This makes him look mean. Yeah. The shutdown makes him look mean, but the long-term win is enhanced border security, which is like national security, like law and order. He always takes the long-term vision, but he gets, reamed over this stuff.
But actually, Juan, one of the things Pelosi said to the president is that you have majorities in the House and the Senate until next month. You have the presidency. You pass the $5 billion. You get it done. And apparently today, now there's talk on the Hill that the House Republicans might actually just try to pass that. And I thought, well, why didn't they just do that before?
I think that's what Nancy Pelosi was saying to him. And then he was coming back and saying, we don't have the votes in the Senate where they need 60, right. Dana. But so he was missing the point totally that he could, in fact, establish the baseline from which negotiations take place by having a vote among the Republican majority in the House. But I think it indicates that, the White House Legislative Office doesn't necessarily think they have the votes in the House right now. And that became apparent. I think, the president encouraged the hardliners in the Freedom Caucus basically today to say, unless it's got my wall, 100%, the $5 billion, don't go along with it. This is, and as you point out in that NPR poll, apparently a majority of the Trump party people say that's the case. I must say the rest of the poll was overwhelming in terms of Americans saying, hey, you know what,
but
we
if
don't
everyone,
need this.
Right, but if everyone, Morgan, was posturing today, this is the first meeting, it's the first one. I don't think all of them are going to be on television because you don't negotiate all your good stuff, in front of the cameras. Maybe they will. I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? Where do you think it goes from here?
Well, I think the big winner today was Schumer's press secretary. I was a press secretary before, not as high profile as you, but Schumer kept going over and over again the same points, trying to make the point that it was the Trump shutdown. And when he finally got the president to say it, he had this Cheshire grin on his face, like he was so happy that he got it out of there. But I actually love this press conference, and I think a lot of Americans did. And the reason why is because it was the thing that people liked about Bernie and about Trump, no matter what party you came from. It's this ultimate disrupting politics. Instead of everyone getting in front of the press conference, in front of the press, and pretending like they all get along and like each other, they all just sort of threw it out there. It was like WWE. It was nasty. It was disruptive. But I think that's actually good for politics. I think that's what our founders intended. They didn't intend for everyone to play nice. But I'll make
the founders wanted the wall. I think that was in the Federalist Papers.
It was.
Federalist 41.
Federalist 41.
Yeah,
they all said lock her up, but they didn't know what they meant.
But I must say, if it was WWE or let's say a boxing match and you were scoring, the idea is you said that he says this. Yeah, I want a shutdown. I own it. I mean, nobody does that. Nobody.
That's why he won.
Because he doesn't think that shutting down the government is going to cause that much pain to regular people. The Democrats and the media become hysterical when there's a shutdown because they have to make it look like the government is so important to everyone's life when it really isn't. Also, one more thing. $5 billion in a budget that's what? Almost $4 trillion is nothing. It's symbolic, and that is what this is
Well,
about.
it seems to me that when he not only says it's going to be a Trump shutdown, but then admits Democrats want border security and have voted for border security, which is what he did. Again, he undoes his talking points, Jesse. And when he talks about, oh, well, you know, people with disease are coming through, terrorists are coming through, all of it proven wrong, and yet he's sitting there spouting. People are like, what is
the Department of Homeland Security has verified those things. So
no, they have
I don't
not.
know what you're talking
State
about.
Department and Homeland Security say no evidence that any terrorists have come across that southern border. And in the drugs
there
thing
have
that you
been
often cite,
terrorist-related people that have crossed the southern border,
Zero.
and Tijuana
In fact,
says there are diseases down there with the caravan.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not demonizing it, Juan. That's just a fact.
I tell you what, we're not spreading disease. We're spreading falsehoods.
But
right?
you know,
Look it up on Google, people.
The bigger one
Google
is
it.
the drugs that you often cite. And again, he says drugs are coming through that southern border. And everybody says, no, in fact, most drugs come through legal ports of entry.
Well, you would know, Juan, because you sound like you're high right now.
Yeah, right.
But this always comes down to the bottom line, process versus chaos. Yeah. And so when he sits there and he comes off as the mean dad, we're going to have this wall and I'm going to shut down. That's how a dad acts. They're the kids and they're not taking the medicine. It always comes down to this. And last but not least, Chuck Schumer reminds me of the vintage penguin from the original Batman. Total Burgess Meredith. Just the way he looks. Totally. Which actually is a compliment.
Josh Dawsey of the Washington Post reported that after the meeting, the public meeting, that apparently President Trump told them that in the new NAFTA, Mexico will pay for the wall.
Oh,
see? And it could still happen.
Let's be honest, border security is a deadly serious issue. Look at this. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, since 2001, 15 suspected terrorists, they've been apprehended at our southern border, including Islamic extremists from Al-Shabaab, the Taliban, ISIS. The true number of terrorist-related crossings is, of course, classified, likely much higher. And meanwhile, over 25,000 other known criminal immigrants have been arrested since 2016. This includes over a dozen murderers, 370 convicted sex offenders, and nearly 5,000 individuals convicted of illegal drug or weapons charges. Now, of course, I would tell you the vast majority of people that want to cross the border illegally probably are people that want a better life for themselves and their families. But even illegal immigrants with the best intentions, they are costing we, the taxpayers, an enormous amount of money. According to a recent study, every illegal immigrant that successfully crosses our border costs you, the American people, $70,000 a year. And on December 3rd, over 3,000 people were caught illegally crossing in just one day. In November, a 2-year-old toddler was found crossing the border without her parents. We must have the ability to decide who comes into our country to ensure the safety on both sides of the border, to vet people, to make sure they can take care of themselves. So now more than ever, we need a massive wall. It's a common sense strategy that actually works, keeping potential terrorists, those that are criminals, human traffickers, drug traffickers, out of this country, illegals. That's a national security issue. The president has long promised now to build that wall, and now he's fighting to do just that. He's fighting for what's right. Now, he fought hard. This is his history for tax cuts. He gave us the largest tax cuts in history. He fought for new trade deals, and he's winning on that front. He fought back against Obama's endless bureaucratic regulations, and he's created an environment for businesses that are now thriving. He's fought for energy independence, and for the first time this week, in 75 years, we are energy independent. He fought for the confirmation of qualified, originalist justices, and he's won. And now he's fighting for the wall on our southern border in a big way and confronting Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, for playing politics with what is the safety and security of every American citizen. Take a look.
I'd like not to see a government closing, a shutdown. We will see what happens over the next short period of time. But the wall is a very important thing to us. I might put it a different way. Border security is extremely important, and we have to take care of border security. When you look at what happened with the caravans, with the people, with a lot of, we shut it down. We had no choice. We shut it down. But it could be a lot easier if we had real border security.
You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives. You have the votes. You should pass it.
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House,
and we don't
you
have.
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but I
today.
can't. Excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we can get passed very easily,
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and
that's
they
not
won't
the-
vote.
we'll
Nancy,
find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security.
do.
People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important.
You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with
just
our
said
military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
Without
effective.
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have
Wait a
walls,
second.
it is not
First of all,
effective.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's called transparency.
I know it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without.
You know
saying
what?
to the
We need
public,
border security.
this
That's
isn't
what we're going to be
true.
talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wool. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said
okay,
it.
you want to put that on
You've
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I
We
am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
Wow. Chuck couldn't even look him in the eye. Now, tonight we have some breaking news. Fox News has confirmed that House Republicans are now considering putting a $5 billion funding the wall bill up for that vote that Nancy Pelosi wants, and they'll still fund the government at current levels. Now, this bill would prove Nancy Pelosi wrong and then put Senate Democrats in a pretty precarious position. Either fund the wall or they will shut down the government. By the way, if you're a Republican in Congress and you vote no, I will tell you right now, we will be highlighting your name and your record and holding you all accountable. This is about our nation's security. It's about stopping drug traffickers and human traffickers. It's about safety for the American people. None of this seems to matter to the left, and yet again, they are on the wrong side of what is a monumentally important issue. Look at this. According to a Harvard-Harris poll, a majority of Americans, they support the president, the wall on our southern border. 79% support a merit-based immigration system. 79% want more secure borders. 61% say the current border security is inadequate. And 68% want an end to the visa lottery system. Now, Democrats don't want to listen to the American people. Maybe they should just listen to themselves, because they're such hypocrites. In the Obama years, they sounded a lot like Donald Trump, and we've got the tape to prove it. Take a look.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. The American people will never accept immigration reform unless they truly believe that their government is committed to ending future illegal immigration.
Those who enter our country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. And because we live in an age where terrorists are challenging our borders, we cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked.
Oh, how times have changed. They all sounded like little baby Donald Trumps. Now, we've warned you for a long time. Now Democrats, now they want open borders, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. They even want to get rid of ICE. and all the hard work that they do, all together. But remember, they want to keep this agenda hidden, which is exactly, was one of the more fascinating moments during that exchange with the president that went on 11, 12 minutes today. They kept urging the president over and over, can we talk privately? Please, please, you're killing us. Sure is sign, by the way, they know that they were out of touch with the American people. Can we please do this privately? Pretty please. Take a look.
The point is that there are equities to be weighed. And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way. So I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. Again, let us have our conversation, then we can meet with the press again.
That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a much bigger section with more money.
Let's debate in private. Okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy. It's called transparency.
And let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work.
No, let's have the conversation in public so we can all see where you really stand. Instead of working towards a solution, you see it. Democrats playing politics and literally commencing with their favorite activity, bashing Trump, including now, moments after that tense exchange in the White House. Watch this.
The Trump shutdown is something that can be avoided, that the American people do not need at this time of economic uncertainty, people losing jobs, the market in a mood, and the rest. It's a luxury. The Trump shutdown is a luxury the American people cannot afford.
If he sticks to his position for a $5 billion wall, he will get no wall, and he will get a shutdown. This Trump shutdown, this temper tantrum that he seems to throw, will not get him his wall, and it'll hurt a lot of people because he will cause a shutdown. He admitted he wanted a shutdown. It's hard to believe that he would want that. The president said things are working quite well at the border. Well, we want to give him the same thing he had last year. If they're working well last year, they should work well this year. He shouldn't shut down the government.
Amazing. Chuck couldn't look him in the eye when he was right in front of him, but he comes out strong when those cameras are out there and he doesn't have anybody to debate or to refute what he is saying. Actually, Chuck, the president said he would own it, that he's willing to fight for his promise for the American people, and that national security is that important to him. Okay, he says he owns it. Accept it. And Nancy Pelosi gets back to the security of Capitol Hill. She actually then questioned the president's, you can't make this up, manhood, telling her fellow Democrats, quote, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. This wall thing. And according to the Hill, she also made this odd, weird, bizarre analogy. It goes to show you, you get into a tinkle contest with a skunk and you get tinkle all over you. Wow. That's the leader of the Democratic Party, soon to be Speaker of the House. This is going to be, listen, you watch in the first 3 months of next year, this is going to be entertainment at its highest level. I promise you. Now let's contrast those very petty statements to how President Trump reacted following the meeting. Take a look.
I don't mind having the issue of border security on my side. If we have to close down the country over border security, I actually like that in terms of an issue, but I don't want it to be an issue. I want it to be something that the country needs. It's not really an issue. It's something the country needs. It's common sense. The country needs it. We need protection. We need border security. We need security from drugs that are pouring into our country. They're coming in right through that southern border, and we need a wall. We need border security, and part of border security is a wall. So I don't mind owning that issue. I mean, Chuck's problem is that, you know, when we last closed down, that was his idea. And honestly, he got killed. And so he doesn't want to own it. And I said, you know what, rather than us debating who's owning it, I'll take it. I'll take it. If we close down the country, I will take it, because we're closing it down for border security. And I think I win that every single time.
Queen Creek is quickly growing, but much of the area is still surrounded by farm fields. Right now, the Queen Creek Unified School District is recruiting migrant families for a special program.
Andrea, go stand on the 8. Andrea, 8, the 8.
Each child you see here is part of a migrant family. Their parents have worked, currently work, or are looking for work in agriculture. English may not be their first language, but these 4- and 5-year-olds are on their way to speaking it fluently.
And I need Jaciel, come on over to the table.
Despite some unique challenges like moving in and out of the area months at a time for seasonal work.
We are covering our letters, our numbers, social skills.
Only one more.
Is that 1 or is that 2? That's one of our goals here with our program, is to make them comfortable with the English language.
It wasn't around when Alma Tiscareno was her son's age. She was born in Arizona but grew up in a migrant family.
Our family immigrated here from Mexico back in the 80s. Now I remember just playing in the fields and helping them pick whatever fruit, vegetable was in season. Just moving here and there was difficult, and not having much information to go by, or like benefits that the community had to offer, were a struggle.
Right now, her son is enrolled in the preschool and is thankful he's getting a better head start than her. According to the Queen Creek Unified School District, this program does not cost the district any money. It is completely federally funded.
A protest today outside a high-profile asylum hearing in Tucson. Alejandra Pablos says it would be unsafe for her to go back to Mexico because of her status as an activist. Pablos was first arrested in January at a protest outside a DHS office in Virginia. After being let go, immigration officials took Pablos into custody during a regularly scheduled visit here in Tucson. Her supporters say she was targeted because of her views.
She's been organizing for reproductive justice. She's been organizing to be able to get people out of prison. She's been organizing to ensure women's rights and immigrant rights. And that is why we continue to be in solidarity with her and be present with her today.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement released a statement today saying ICE does not target unlawfully present aliens for arrest based on advocacy positions they hold or in retaliation for critical comments they make. Any suggestion to the contrary is irresponsible, speculative, and inaccurate. The judge in the case ordered Pablos to be deported. She says she'll fight that decision.